Hello everybody. Welcome to my second video that I'm making about my cross-stitching projects. My name is Rosanna, and the first video I ever uploaded was about a month ago in early December. And a lot of stuff has happened with me and cross-stitching since then. So I felt really compelled to do another video just to talk about these new projects that I've started. So the theme of my first video back in early December was my first year of cross-stitching, where I talked about two of these larger projects that I had finished in my first year. So the theme of this video is going to be my WIPs. Which if you're new at this like me and still figuring out the acronyms, WIP just means work in progress. And I was gonna do this video last week, so it was more within the realm of New Year's, but that didn't end up happening. But I have been seeing like so many amazing of these WIP parades where people are talking about all of the projects that they've got going on. And so many people started a bunch of new ones for New Year's. So I'm gonna do my own little miniature WIP parade because I did, in the last month, I've started 5 new projects. And I know I've been watching some videos where people have like, literally, they have like 60 WIPs. And they have these charts where they're keeping track of like how much they're stitching on them and all this stuff. And I don't think I could ever like keep track of 60, but it was really inspirational to see those videos, and I decided that like if they can do 60, I could probably keep track of 6, which includes the larger project that I had been working on prior to all these new starts. So right now I've got 6 WIPs, and I almost want to take a little bit of time to show them. As I said, this has been a big month for me and cross-stitching. A lot of things happened. One of the things that happened, of course, was holidays and Christmas. So I did get some new patterns, some new haul. My husband gave me several patterns that I had requested. I told him, you know, these are ones that I really want, but then he also threw in some extra ones that he picked, which was great. And I want to just give you a look at those later on in the video, so we can see like how he did, you know, with the ones that he chose. Like, did he pick some winners or did he totally blow it? But I'm just kidding, he didn't blow it. And I'm really excited about them. So yeah, I just want to take a look at, and 2 of them I actually already started. 2 of them are like in my WIP parade. So that was one thing, the holiday season and Christmas. And the other thing, of course, that happened was that my first video that I posted in December 8th, like, it got way more views than I was ever expecting. To say that I was surprised is an understatement. I couldn't believe it. And I realize now like how active the Flosstube community is, because as the number of views and comments kept going up, I was like, at first I was like, I hope I don't get any hecklers. Because I didn't know what to expect, and you know, this is the internet, this is YouTube, and I was a little nervous at first, but wow. Everyone was just so friendly in the comments and really encouraging. I got a lot of great ideas for fabrics. People were helping me troubleshoot that one pattern that I was having some difficulty with. And I did my best to respond to the comments and everything. I was completely floored. It really did just like make my week when that happened. And And yeah, it just really galvanized me to do like a bunch of new starts. Like I said, 5 new starts for me is a lot, because up until, well, in my first year of cross stitching, I was definitely a monogamous stitcher. So that was a huge motivating factor for me to get some new projects going. And so far, and I've only been, sorry, I just wiggled the phone, but so far I've only been doing these like multiple WIPs at a time for like a few weeks, so who knows how it's going to end up, if I'm going to keep up with it or what, or if I just like go back to being a monogamous stitcher. But so far it has been a lot of fun just switching projects, working on one night and then a different one the next night, so I can see the appeal of why people do it that way. So those were like the big things that happened this month, and change my outlook on stitching a little bit. So yeah, that's why I wanted to do my own miniature WIP parade. So why don't I just get into it. I'm gonna start with that one that I actually showed in my last video. I'll only show it briefly because, again, I went over it back in early December. But I have made progress on it, so I did just want to start off to show that one. And for those of you who didn't see the first video, it is the Santas of Fable and Fantasy. This is from the November-December 1991 issue of Cross Stitch and Country Crafts magazine. And back when I did my first video, I was about halfway through this. I had done these Santas and I was halfway through this one. So I hadn't started this one, and I have made some progress on it. And here it is. Looks like it's showing up pretty well in this light. So as you can see, I finished this guy, and I also was able to do the Patriotic Santa over on the side, and I even started a little bit of this really big border with the alphabet. And yeah, the reason I was able to make some progress on this, despite, you know, getting all caught up with these new things, was that this is the project I actually took with me when my husband and I went to Pennsylvania for the Christmas holiday, because we went down there to spend Christmas with my parents and my brothers in central Pennsylvania, and my husband and I live in upstate New York. So this is the one that I took with me, and it's the only one I took. So I did have a decent amount of stitching time while I was there, and I was able to just knock out this last Santa here. Of course, like the back stitching isn't done, so they're not like finished, but I got the stitching part of it done. And yeah, this alphabet's gonna take a while. I think I underestimated how complicated that was gonna be. So yeah, it's gonna take me a little bit longer to get through it, but I still love it, and I can't wait for it to be done. It's really exciting. Yeah, so I guess that's all I really have to say about this guy. Yeah, our visit down to Pennsylvania was a lot of fun. This was actually the first year that my husband and I had spent New Year's Eve and Christmas Day together. Because even though we've been together for a long time, but I guess we're just kind of typical millennials, and we would, for the actual Christmas Day, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, we would always go to our separate parents' houses, because they're in different states. So this was the first time that we spent the holiday together, and I was like, I was honestly a little nervous about it at first, just because I guess like all families have their own little quirks and traditions and their way of doing things, and I wanted him to have a nice time. I didn't want him to feel like left out or like an outsider or anything like that. So I was a little nervous beforehand, but it ended up going great. I think everyone had a really nice time, and yeah, it went off without a hitch. Speaking of family traditions, you know, my parents, not every year, but some years for Christmas Day, they'll actually have scratch-off lottery tickets for us, just as a fun little thing to do. So they did that this year, and I think they gave us all like 4 or 5 scratch-offs. So I was sitting on the couch with my husband, and you know, we all had a quarter that you used to scratch it off. And so I'm working on mine, and then I feel like this tap on my shoulder. And Andrew, my husband, looks at me and is like, I don't think it's working. And I look over at his lottery ticket where he had basically scratched a hole into the middle of his ticket with his quarter. I looked at him, I was just like, have you been living under a rock? Like, how do you not know how to scratch off a lottery ticket? Because, like, the paper was pulverized in that spot. But we figured it out. I think it was actually my fault because the lighting was really dim, and when they passed out the lottery tickets, I think I just like kind of pointed at a random spot, like oh, you scratch it off there. So he scratched it off in that exact spot, but of course that's not like where the little foil covering was. So he had just like scratched a hole into his lottery ticket. But long story short, we were not big winners, but it was a lot of fun. I learned something new about my husband, and he learned how to scratch off a lottery ticket. So I feel like it was a win-win. But yeah, that's my little holiday story. It was really funny. But all right, so that was the Santas of Fable and Fantasy, and I don't know, maybe some people are tired of seeing Christmas stitches, but I work on Christmas stitches like all year, so not exclusively, like I have other things too, but I don't really get tired of them, and I'd rather work on them during the year so that they're ready for the actual holiday. So now I'll get into my little miniature WIP Parade. I'm just gonna take a little sip here. And so these are getting into my new starts. And this one I had mentioned last time as well, but I hadn't started it yet. This is Moonlight Sampler by the Blue Flower. And this is the one that I had talked about, where there's all the cute little nocturnal animals in it. So I am really excited that I actually got this one started. It had been sitting in my stash for quite a while. The fabric that I'm using is called Straw by Weeks Dye Works, and it's a 40 count linen. And this is actually the first time I've ever worked with a 40 count linen, and I'm doing 1 strand over 2. So I was a little nervous about the 1 strand and the 40 count, but it's actually going more smoothly than I thought. And when this fabric came in the mail, I was a little iffy about it. I thought it might have been a little bit too almost like orangey brown. I wasn't sure how things were gonna look. But now that I've started doing it, I actually really love it. And all right, so I will let you take a look at this. All right, so that is what I have. I was really impatient to get to the owl, as you can see. So I did a little bit of the border, like this beautiful green nature looking border. I did 2 of the flowers to orient myself. And then I very quickly got to this owl, and I think she looks very pretty. And she's gonna have a little branch that she's sitting on and everything. So I really think I'm off to a good start with this one. This is a big one. This is gonna take me a long time to get through it. But so far I'm really enjoying it. And I'm just really proud that I finally took the steps to get it all kitted and get it started. And with this one, I am using the over-dyed flosses. It's a combination, like the called for is a combination of DMC and over-dyed flosses. And I am using the over-dyeds just because I love the look of it in the model here. So that's really exciting. And I can't wait to get to more of these little animals. Okay, so that is that one. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, I will go on to my second one now. This is also one from the blue flower, and I had mentioned this pattern in my first video as well. It's called a Greyhound year. It's the one with all the calendar of all the different greyhounds wearing thematic clothing and accessories based on what month it is. And so what I ended up doing for this, and I'm going to explain why, but I decided I was just going to do one of these guys, and I am doing August. So this greyhound who is having some fun in the sun, he is standing in a kiddie pool with like a swimming tube around him, and there's a fan because he's really warm, and the sun up here. I decided I'm just, for now, I'm doing August just as its own separate project. So where did I actually? I found it. I thought for a minute I was like, where did the project go? But I found it. So let me just show you what I've got done so far, which is not very much, but so far I have the month, I've got the sun, and this is like the face of the dog. So this is kind of a small start. And the reason I decided to just do it separately as its own month, and it's like own separate project, is because of this linen. This is like an experiment, pure and simple, because anyone who knows me knows that I am at thrift stores constantly. I have like a rotation in a 3-county radius of thrift stores that I go to. So, I mean, that's like its own hobby in and of itself. But I was at a thrift store a couple of weeks ago, and I just found these giant panels of linen. And these are not linens that were specifically manufactured for cross stitching. These are linens that were probably used by somebody maybe to make clothes, because I found it in the crafting section, you know, where they keep all the quilting fabrics and stuff like that. And I was just looking at this bag that all these fabrics were in, and I was like, this looks like the linen that I've been stitching on for like another project. So I was just curious if I would be able to actually like stitch a real cross stitch project on one of these linens. And as you can see, one of them was this beautiful yellow color. I mean, it's just so bright. So I just decided to do this little experiment. It is more difficult, as you can imagine, to stitch on this than on a linen specifically manufactured for cross stitching. The grid lines, I mean, you can make it out, but they're really tiny. They're like almost a little bit squished together, I want to say. So there's more irregularities, which makes it a little bit less intuitive to stitch on, and I don't think I would ever do like a big important project on this, but for like a little cute thing that maybe I want to turn into a pillow or something like that, it's working, you know, it's working out okay. And I like the way it looks. I love the yellow, and I think it's like perfect for August. So that's been a fun little experiment. I just had this like tiny Q-snap hanging around my house. Actually, I forgot to explain this earlier, but the reason that I have 5 new WIPs is because I had 5 empty Q-snaps. So I just made it a goal to fill them all up, and this was one of them. And yeah, I'm glad I'm getting some use out of it, finally. So that was my second new start and my second WIP. So those are both of the ones by the Blue Flower. And now I'm getting out of the things that I had mentioned in my first video. All this other stuff I haven't, because they're new patterns that I got. Right, sorry, I was like counting. I was like, have all this anxiety that I'm missing a project, but no, they're all here. All right, so moving on to my third new start. So I'm sure many of you have seen this pattern or are working on this pattern. It came out at some point, I think like mid-December. And it is called The Santa's House by Cottage Garden Samplings. And here is what the model looks like. As you can see, it has a very rustic vibe to it with this muted gray background. And originally I thought that I was gonna just try to make it look like the picture and order similar fabric. But because I started a couple of other rustic projects, including the Midnight Sampler, which I just showed you with the straw fabric color. And then there's another one I'll show you that has like a really rustic vibe. I decided I was just gonna have a little bit more fun with this one. And also because it's like smaller. So let me show you what I have completed on that one so far. This was the one that I started on New Year's Day. So I've only been working on this one for a week, and not the whole week because I switched it out with a few different ones on different days. But I think this is like, for me, this is, I worked on this like 3 days. I mean, not all day, but for me, like a couple hours of stitching for those 3 days, and wow, I am loving this. I think this fabric is just so beautiful. Yeah, I mean, you can see it pretty well. And as you can see from the back here, I have like way more fabric than I need. And the reason for that is when I purchased this fabric, I think it was August or September, I was intending to start a Mirabilia mermaid on it, which did not end up happening. In my first video, I showed my 2 projects from my first year of cross stitching, which were both like pretty elaborate ladies. One of them was a lavender and lace Celtic lady. So I had done 2 complicated ladies already, and I thought I wanted to start a mermaid, but I think I was a little weary of just diving into those really big like lady projects. So I put that on hold, but I still had the fabric in my stash. And yeah, I'm so happy with the way it's looking so far. You know, it just reminds me of like a night sky at Christmas time with kind of snowy-ish, and this is the opalescent. Oh, I forgot to tell you what fabric this is. It is called Splendid Blue by Fabric Flare. I got the opalescent version, so it does, I don't think you can really see it, but it does have sparkles. And this is a 32 count even weave. And this has just been so fun to work on. I'm starting to think that maybe I am an even weave girl. I don't know. Because the Santas of Fable and Fantasy is also on an even weave. And for some reason, I guess I'm just more inclined to pick the even weaves up than I am the other types of fabric. But we'll see. I'm still like getting used to the linen and everything. So yeah, it's looking beautiful. And I'm still deciding if I'm gonna end up doing any of the other houses in the series. I believe they are coming out on a monthly basis for like 12 months, and the next one is gonna be a castle, and I've seen the photo of it. It looks really cool, but I still haven't decided. If I do the other houses, they'll probably be on different fabrics, just so like the colors make sense. But yeah, I think this is just a fantastic pattern. All right, I think that was number 3. So my next WIP. And now I'm actually getting into the patterns that my husband got me for Christmas. And as I said, you know, a few of them I had specially requested. Excuse me while I dig out these charts for you to see the models. So I know I'm not the only one working on this. Crocette, a Gogo winter sampler. Yeah, I've been seeing this pop up on a lot of videos. I think a lot of people are excited about this. I think it's so beautiful, and what a great pattern to work on in January, because it is, you know, strictly winter. It's not really Christmassy, in my opinion. And I love again, I mean, I'm such a sucker for these animals on all of these cross stitch patterns, but I love, you know, up here it's like symmetrical owls, and then you've got symmetrical foxes. But down here, it's like not symmetrical. It's a moose and a deer. Yeah, so I love that. Like at the bottom, it just kind of switches it up a little. And yeah, this is gonna take a long time. Pretty big pattern. Like the other one I'm working on, the Midnight Sampler. These are both large projects on linen that are gonna take me a long time. So here's what I have done on it. So once again, I was impatient to get to the owl. I also got one of these little trees done. Started off with the border here to orient myself and make sure I wasn't just like starting in a random spot and run out of fabric later. But I think the owl is looking really good. And this is charted with all DMC colors, so you don't have to like worry about finding any special flosses. And I am using the called for fabric, which is Vintage Country Mocha, and I'm doing the 36 count linen version of that fabric. And so far everything seems to be showing up great. The one thing I'm thinking I might change from the original is the word winter really is just getting swallowed up because it's in white. And I don't mind that the little snowflakes are in white because they're supposed to be like pretty subtle. But I think I would maybe want the word winter to stand out a little more. So I might just turn that into more of a gray. But we'll see. I'm not at that part yet. So yeah, this is another one of my empty Q snaps that I had hanging around, and as you can see, it's a little oddly shaped. It's really long and rectangular, but that's like the last one I had. So I just decided to use it. All right, so 2 owls down. Yes, making lots of progress over here. And now I am actually getting into my last new start and my last WIP for my miniature WIP Parade. And this is another pattern that my husband Andrew got me for Christmas that I had specially requested. And I already got it started because I was really excited. So let me show you the model. This is the Mistletoe Loitering Society by Lindy Stitches. I saw someone, one of the first Flosstube videos I think I ever watched, and this was like first week of December or something like that, because I'm brand new to Flosstube, but they had mentioned this and shown it just as part of their haul, a chart that they had purchased. And I know this is gonna come as like a total shock to everyone, but I was a very, very shy young woman in my youth. And I feel like I was a member of this club for a really long time. The Mistletoe Loitering Society, and I just love that like the animals are like breaking the fourth wall and looking straight at the camera. It's Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost like someone walked in and snapped a candid picture of these animals as they're just like hanging out awkwardly at a party and trying to get a date. And I saw it. The moment I saw it, I was just like, I have to stitch this thing, like just to hang out with my buds from the Mistletoe Loitering Society again. And I also just like love penguins, and this one is so cute. I mean, look at him. I was thinking it might be funny to just like add like a little flower coming out of his hat, because he's, you know, he's trying to look his best and he's trying to make an impression. But I'm so excited about this, and it's also not very big, which is great. Lindy Stitches, I've been on their website since receiving this pattern just to see what else they have. And wow, I mean, they're so cute. There's a bunch of them I would like to do. This one seems to have like a companion pattern, which is called the Rooftop Hot Cocoa Shop or something like that. And that one's also adorable. But it's like the same size as this, I think, and it looks like they were maybe charted as a pair. So I hope to do that one as well. But anyway, all of that was a preamble to showing you what I do have finished on it. So I started in the middle of the fabric with that rectangle, which is where the sign is going to go. And then I managed to finish the raccoon portion. And I think he's so cute. Look at him. I mean, you can just tell how delighted I am by this pattern, and like I just can't wait till it's done and I, you know, hang it on the wall. I just think like every time I walk by, I'm just gonna be like, hang in there, guys. You're doing great. So thank you to my husband for getting this one for me as well. And I am stitching this on the called for fabric, which is 32 count Blue Whisper Belfast linen by Zweigart. And I love the color of this. I really like stitching on it, and I do think I will be using this very same fabric in the future for other projects, just because I think the color is incredible. It's like really subtle, but it's a lot more interesting than just straight white. So I've been having a lot of fun with this one. And I am also using the once again, it's a combination of over-dyed and DMCs, but it's only 4 over-dyes, so I did take this extra step to get a hold of those, because I do want to make this look as nice as possible and as much like the model as possible. So I'm using the combination of over-dyes and DMCs. All right. So that was my last WIP in the miniature WIP parade. And then just a couple, I did want to show the other things that Andrew got me because I'm really excited about them. And I think there's only 3. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but so this is another one that I had specially asked for. The Prairie Schooler Harvest Time, and it's a series of 3 different patterns, And I had requested it because like I really love the turkey, and I want to stitch this, you know, more towards fall time. I think I'm not gonna get it started right away, but this turkey looks very regal, and the leaves are just beautiful colors, and I just love it. And I really like turkeys. Where I grew up, out in the country in rural Pennsylvania, we would see a lot of wild turkeys out and about in the fields, and I always thought, you know, they're really beautiful birds, and they don't, you know, they're not as like heavy set as the Thanksgiving turkeys that we're used to seeing depicted. And I would say that this is more looking like a Thanksgiving turkey because this is Thanksgiving themed. But I do really like turkeys. I just like birds in general. Penguins, owls, turkeys. I love hummingbirds. I'm a bird person. But I think I will stitch this other one at some point because it's really cute. It's a little village, like fall themed village. And yeah, it's a really charming pattern. So I would maybe do these two, maybe during fall time, or at least get them started. They do look like they would take kind of a while. So that was one of the ones that I had asked for that Andrew got me. But now the next two were the ones that he picked himself and threw in as part of my Christmas present. And so let's see how he did. Maybe I'll just toss them up here together. So he knows me too well. It's like anything involving an animal wearing like clothes. You know. So this is Squirrely Acorn Banquet, Squire Squirrel by Artful Offerings. And it's so cute. I opened it and I laughed out loud because it's really rustic, but it's also very whimsical, and I love the colors of the leaves. And I'm excited to get this one started at some point. I mean, like I said, I'm trying to deal with my 5 new starts, and I think I need to like put the brakes on for a little bit until I get some of those more progress on them. So I'm not going to start these 2 immediately. And then this is Oona Owl by the Artsy Housewife. And when I first opened my present, my first instinct was like, oh, I love a squirrel. Like, I can't wait to work on a squirrel. But the more I looked at this owl, I just became enchanted. She looks very soulful and also very elegant, in my opinion. And I love her eyes and the embellishments around like the quilt block type thing and the foliage. Like I said, I was enchanted, and I decided I'm not gonna mess around with this one. I'm gonna like use the specialty threads that are listed on the back, because it looks like there's a few like Weeks Dye Works, Gentle Arts, over dyes. And, you know, this is something that would just be really easy to just like, you know, throw your DMC threads together and get going. But I've decided I want to do this. I want to do it right. I mean, not to say that DMC is like bad, because gosh, I use, you know, DMC for everything, but I want to make this one look like the model. So I'm going to do the extra step to get a hold of the overdyes. And yeah, I just think it's beautiful. So thank you, Andrew. He's not going to watch this, but thank you, Andrew, for all of these wonderful patterns. He really did spoil me. And I'm really excited to work on all of these. And I realize, you know, this has been a very owl heavy Flosstube video. This is like the third owl I've talked about. But like I said, I like owls, but I wouldn't say that they're my favorite bird, but I do like owls a lot. And they just have a very magical look about them. Okay, the only other thing I'll say is that, like, thank you to everyone, like seriously, who watched or commented on my first video back in early December. As I mentioned, just that was a huge motivating factor for me to start all of these new WIPs, and I have you guys to thank for that. And in my next video, I hope to have more progress on these, etc., etc. I am gonna start making project bags for myself, because I've seen a lot of people doing that on Flosstube. And back when I was in grad school, I used to make quilts. I never got like really, really deep into quilt making. And I know quilt making is difficult, but I did do it as sort of like a therapeutic way to spend my evenings back when I was in grad school. So I do know how to use a sewing machine, and I was seeing these people just making these amazing project bags, which seems like so much fun to put all of your projects in a different project bag and keep it organized, because right now my project bags are courtesy of Ziploc. So I've decided I'm gonna like brush up, you know, dust off the old sewing machine skills and make some project bags for myself. And I've already dug through my old stash of fabric that I still have from back when I used to do quilting. I was like rummaging around in my storage shed 2 or 3 days ago. It was freezing and I was out there like pawing through all these old fabrics. And the first project bag I'm planning to make, and I'm gonna try to throw a photo of the fabric into the video. We'll see if that works in my post-production editing process. And yeah, I discovered this fabric in my stash, and it was never used. I never used this for quilting. I never used it for anything. I think when I originally bought it, I actually had like delusions of making a dress for myself, which that never happened. I don't make clothes, never have, and I don't think I ever will. But I literally think I bought it with the original intention of making a dress for myself. And it was still in its original packaging. It had the original receipt in there, and it was from 2010. So this fabric, like, it literally made a cross-country move with me in 2015 from California to Pennsylvania and then to New York State. So I have had this fabric for so long, and wow, like what a thrill to just finally do something with it. So I don't have my project bag like finished yet or started. I have cut out like the pieces to get it ready, but yeah, I'm hoping like by my next video I will become accustomed to making project bags, because I would like to make them for all of my projects. And it doesn't look like it's too hard. I think if I could make quilts, I could probably make some project bags. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And I guess that's all I have to show and to cover in this video. Happy New Year, everyone. Happy stitching. And I will probably see a lot of your videos in the coming weeks. And I'm looking forward to it. Bye.